Pagbati sa inyo mga kapatid sa pangalan ng ating Panginoong Hesukristo. Matapos ang mahaba at malawakan nating pagtalakay sa usapin ng kasalanan, nagsimula na tayo noong nakaraang linggo na pag-usapan ang tinawag kong standards of holiness. Why is having a standard very important? For the simple reason that without a standard, we cannot define sin or holiness. Wala tayong pagbabatayan kung ano ang kasalanan, kung paano maging banal, maliban na tayo ay may pamantayan. And when we identify what that standard is, there can be nothing more supreme than God Himself. God Himself as holy is the supreme standard. God said, and Peter repeats this in the New Testament, be holy because I am holy. But that does not amount to much of anything unless we are able to identify what God's holiness is. Maraming mga tao ang magbibigay ng kanilang sariling akala ano ang kabanalan ng Diyos. So scriptures do not leave us to our own definition or description of what God's holiness is. So we are identifying those standards of holiness as we find it in the scriptures, and we are dealing now with the 10 Commandments, ang 10 utos. Titingnan natin ang kaharian ni Kristo, the kingdom of Christ, also the example of Jesus, o ang huwaran at halimbawa ni Jesus, at sa pinakahuli ay titingnan natin ang bunga ng Espiritu, the fruit of the Spirit. We already started last week the consideration of the 10 Commandments, or in one word, the Decalogue. And while many tend to dismiss this, I emphasize the importance of the Decalogue. Consider the fact that it is the only material written by God Himself. Diyos mismo ang nagsulat ng 10 utos, sinulat ng kanyang mga kamay sa 2 lapida ng bato, at in fact twice He did it, because the first tablets of stone were broken by Moses as protest against the sins of the Israelites. But God again wrote another set of the same commandments on 2 tablets of stone. And maliwanag ito sa Deuteronomy 4:13. He declared to you His covenant which He commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments, and He wrote them, God Himself wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. So the law therefore is important, and in fact it is used by the Apostle Paul in the New Testament to define the world's guilt. So hindi ito pang Israel lamang. What defines, what exposes the sinfulness of mankind, whether Jews or Gentiles, is the law. He says so in Romans 3:19 and 20, the world may become guilty, or that is exposed as guilty before God, and only because of that fact that it shows the emptiness of any salvation that is based upon law obedience. And then when we come to the Lord Jesus, Jesus summarized the commandments in the 2 tablets of the Decalogue. When He was challenged as to what would be considered the greatest of the commandments, Jesus in Matthew 22 summarized it in the 2 commandments that summarize the 2 tablets of the Decalogue. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and that love your neighbor as yourself, which clearly indicates that Jesus was expressing the 2 tablets of the Decalogue as summarizing the commandments of the Lord. Now, ang gusto kong tingnan natin ay ang isang utos na pinagtatalunan ng gusto kaysa sa iba pang mga utos sa 10 utos. Now, we could have expounded on the other commandments, but as I have explained, I have done so in explaining the various sins we have addressed in this series. I have dealt with the commandments that pertain to those sins. But of all the commandments, nothing is more controversial, nothing is more put in doubt and questioned even by evangelicals than the Sabbath command. And so it is on that I will focus. Pero dito rin, napakalawak na paksa nito. I can tackle the Sabbath on many aspects of its command, but that will require again quite a long series, and I have done so in the past. And for this singular lesson, I want to focus on the fact that the Sabbath continues to be a binding command for believers, in fact for all mankind. Ang dahilan na dito tayo nagfo-focus ay dahil among evangelicals, there are positions that deny the Decalogue, but they actually end up only rejecting the Sabbath. Particularly, there are two evangelical positions that deny the Decalogue but only end up rejecting the Sabbath. One is known as dispensationalism. Dispensationalism separates Israel and the church, that God has two plans, distinct for Israel and distinct for the church. And when it comes to the Decalogue, their belief is that the law is a dispensation for Israel and therefore not for the church. And then the other position is known as New Covenant theology. And as this name implies, the Decalogue is treated by them as belonging to the Old Covenant, and now in the time of Jesus replaced by the New Covenant. But as I've said, they don't really reject all the rest of the Decalogue. They in fact accept the 9 commandments. So it's not that they reject the 10 commandments, but they end up only crossing out the 4th commandment. And the reason for doing that is they say the Sabbath was not repeated in the New Testament. They can say that the other 9 commandments have their counterpart in the New Testament, but the Sabbath has none. Therefore, they conclude, for the dispensationalists, it's only for Israel. For the New Covenant theologians, it is of the Old Covenant. But pareho silang, ang kanilang conclusion ay wala ng Sabbath na utos para sa Kristiyano. Gusto ko lang sabihin sa ganyang pagngangatwiran na it is an arbitrary rule to only accept what the New Testament repeats. Masyado mong babawasan ang kapakinabangan ng lumang tipan kung ganyan ang ating pag-iisip, na kung ano lang ang inulit ng bagong tipan ay yun lang ang para sa atin. Rather, let us follow how the New Testament uses the Old Testament itself. And the way the New Testament uses the Old Testament is not this rule of only making relevant whatever is repeated in the New Testament. Rather, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 10:11 concerning the experience of the Israelites in their wilderness journey, ang sabi niya, now these things happen to them as an example, and they were written for our instruction, upon whom the ends of the ages have come. Napansin niyo yung dalawang salita ron, there is example and there is instruction. Ang isinulat, ang mga nangyari sa lumang tipan ay maaari nating gamitin na halimbawa, at meron ding itinuturo para sa atin. Now, the way to do that is to have a Christ-centered outlook of the Old Testament. In other words, the New Testament writers, after they have recognized Jesus to be the Messiah, they had a rereading of the Old Testament, and for the first time, because of Christ, they saw Christ as the proper way of understanding the Old Testament. Where did they get this idea? From Christ himself, because it was Christ who gave this principle of interpreting the Old Testament in a way that relates to him. Sa kanyang pangungusap sa dalawang alagad na nakipaglakad siya papunta ng Emmaus, the Emmaus disciples, and he told them, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself. Now, when this verse speaks of all the scriptures, it is referring to the Old Testament, and Jesus is telling these two downcast disciples na hindi nila naunawaan ang lumang tipan na ito ay tumutukoy sa kanya. And then later on, he made an appearance for the first time to his remaining disciples, the 11 disciples, in an enclosed room, at ganun din ang kanyang ginawa according to Luke 24:44. And he said unto them, these are the words which I spoke unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled which were written in the law of Moses and in the prophets and in the Psalms concerning me. Dito ginamit niya ang tatlong bahagi ng lumang tipan as recognized by the Jews: the law, the prophets, and the writings which were introduced by the Psalms. Kaya nang sabihin niya tatlong kategorya na yan, he is talking of all the scriptures of the Old Testament. And here take note that he is saying that all things that are written are to be understood in terms of fulfillment in Him. So that is the way to look at the Old Testament, hindi itong artificial rule na it is only relevant and binding if it is repeated in the New Testament. But using that very same rule that they are using, well, let me say that the Sabbath command is in fact repeated in the New Testament. Kaya yung sinasabi nila na yung 9 na utos lamang ang inulit, kaya wala na ang Sabbath, hindi totoo yan. Maging sa Bagong Tipan, inulit ang utos ng Sabbath. And no less than the Lord Jesus made it clear when in his controversy with the Pharisees and scribes, he explained the meaning and the significance of the Sabbath by saying the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. This is a very significant statement. Jesus going back to creation, na ang Sabbath ay nilalang ng Diyos para sa kapakinabangan ng tao. Hindi ang tao para maging alipin ng Sabbath. At para mangyari iyon, ang sabi niya ay He, the Son of Man, is Lord of the Sabbath. Mararanasan natin ang pagkapanginoon ni Jesucristo, kasama ang saklaw nito ang Sabbath. And then in an apostolic statement in Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 9, after talking about that rest promised to the people of God in the Old Testament, the writer suddenly makes this application to his readers. There remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. Now, this is the only time this word is used in Greek in the whole of the New Testament, and the right translation is as it is translated here, Sabbath rest. So there remains, present tense, a Sabbath rest for the people of God now, even as they anticipate the eternal rest that we have waiting for us at the consummation. Kaya kung gagamitin lang din natin ang kanilang rule na yung inulit ng Bagong Tipan, yun lamang ang may pamamahala, ay tanggapin natin ang Sabbath sapagkat inulit din yan sa Bagong Tipan. Pero hindi nga yan ang prinsipyo ng paggamit ng Lumang Tipan. Gamitin natin ang Lumang Tipan na nakatuon sa katuparan kay Jesucristo. So my focus in this lecture is to show that the Sabbath is binding without becoming bondage. It is binding, but it is not bondage. How do we show that this is binding? Well, for the simple reason that the Sabbath we must consider to be corresponding to what we call the Lord's Day in the New Testament, which is Sunday, used in Revelation 1:10, on the Lord's Day. So the Lord's Day refers to the day Jesus rose from the dead, and that is now Sunday in the Christian church. So why is this something that should continue as a command that is both ruling as well as relevant and meaningful? Because it began with the creation mandate. As Jesus said, the Sabbath was made for man. At kasama yan ng ibang mga creation mandate, kagaya ng paggawa. When we say creation mandate, these are the order of humanity given at creation. It is meant to define human life and order. So kasama dyan yung pag-exercise ng authority, man's authority over the earth. Even work is a creation mandate. Man was created to work, but maliwanag na kasama sa creation mandate is that man is also to have a Sabbath rest, because no less than God observed the Sabbath after the 6-day creation week. God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because in it He rested from all His work which God had created and made. Hindi nito sinasabi na napagod ang Diyos at kinailangan niyang magpahinga. Rest here is, as we will see even in its application to the New Testament, it means something you delight in after having worked for 6 days to complete creation, now God has a moment of delighting in what He has done, and delighting by reserving a particular day for such delighting. And if God has done it, this is the basis on which the Sabbath is given to man as an ordinance. It is a creation mandate. At gaya ng ibang creation mandate, undermining it is dehumanizing. Creation mandate defines good humanity. Anong mabuting pagkatao? In other words, if you undermine what is creation mandate, it is not just that you are doing something bad, you are tampering with your own humanity. You are dehumanizing yourself. That is why it is for the good of man. Yan ang sinabi ng Panginoon, hindi ba? Na the Sabbath was made for man, para sa kapakinabangan ng tao, hindi ang tao para alipinin ng Sabbath. So, tampering with any of the creation mandates, that includes the Sabbath, is counterproductive. This was attempted several times in history. Just to take one example, in the case of the French Revolution, in 1789, the revolutionaries wanted to have a 10-day week. In other words, 9 straight days of work, and only on the 10th day would they have a day of rest. And they thought that would be better economically. Well, it proved counterproductive, and they went back to the 7-day cycle of 6 days work and 1 day rest. Why? Because this is built into our humanity. Inilalang ito ng Diyos sa ating pagkatao, at kapag yan ay iyong lapastanganin, it is counterproductive for the good of man. So there is creation mandate, but not only that, it is also moral law. And as moral law, it defines morality. And this is divinely written, as we have already seen, to define man's moral conduct. So we have that in the 4th command of the 10 commandments: 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. Now, wag muna nating pag-usapan dito yung 7th day or first day. Definitely it was the 7th day or Saturday to the Israelites, but arguably it was transferred to the first day for the New Testament church as reminder of the new creation, which is the resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, because this is moral law, the 10 commandments must be considered unitary. Mag-isa, parang siyang pinagsama, hindi maaring basagin. Ang ganitong sabi ni James in chapter 2 verse 10, whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles in one point has become guilty of all. So pansinin ninyo na hindi maaari na mamili ka anong utos ang gusto mo, anong utos ang hahayaan mong mamahala sa iyo, sapagkat kapag lumabag ka sa isa, ay nilabag mo na ang lahat, sapagkat ang kautusan ay isang pinagsama na pamamahala ng Diyos sa sangkatauhan. And the moral law or the Decalogue defines for man his permanent morality. So if the creation mandate defines for man his humanity, his human order, the Decalogue defines for man his morality, his human morals. So yan ang isang bagay na dapat nating makita kung bakit patuloy pa rin ang pamamahala ng Sabbath. And then, remember that we are talking here of the lawful use of the Decalogue. It's not all kinds of uses. There are those who will use the law for their salvation, which of course is wrong. But there is a lawful use of the law, and that is for the conviction of sin and for the sanctification of those who are believers, or the New Testament calls them saints. And Paul makes this clear in 1 Timothy 1 verses 8 to 11. Mahalagang pangatalata ito dahil bumanggit si Pablo ng ilang mga kategorya, and I want to show how important these descriptions are. Now we know that the law is good if one uses it lawfully, understanding this, that the law is not laid down for the just but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and sinners, for the unholy and profane, for those who strike their fathers and mothers, for murderers, the sexually immoral, men who practice homosexuality, enslavers, liars, perjurers, and whatever else is contrary to sound doctrine in accordance with the gospel of the glory of the blessed God with which I have been entrusted. So Paul is talking about the lawful use of the law. Now, ang mga binanggit niya rito, mga descriptions, I will want to show is very important to reflect the Decalogue. Ang pinakauna niyang binanggit dito ay ang lawless and disobedient. This we can consider as a general category of all those who transgress the law. They are the lawless and the disobedient. But now, I want to show, and my thesis is that in this passage, we find the Apostle Paul following the order and content of commandments 1 to 9. Now, because the more obvious is the commandments number 5 to 9, in other words, the second table of the law, that is where I would begin in the second half of Paul's descriptions. Ano-anong mga sinabi niya rito? Those who are striking fathers and mothers, or in some translations, murderers of fathers and mothers. Ano ito? This is the worst violation of the fifth command. Honor your father and mother. Kung ini-strike mo at sinasaktan mo at yung sa ibang translation nga pinapatay, yan ang pinakamalalang paglabag sa ikalimang utos. Then he mentions murderers, which of course is violation of the sixth command. Thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not kill. Binanggit niya ang sexually immoral and those who practice homosexuality. And what is that sin under? It is under the violation of the seventh command, you shall not commit adultery. And of course, gamitin natin yung sinabi nating application ng Decalogue from positive, negative, from active to motive. Masasama dyan ang sexually immoral and the homosexual. It's violation of the seventh command. And then it speaks of enslavers, which in other translations have kidnappers. Ano ba ang kidnapping? It is the worst violation of the eighth command. You shall not steal. Kidnapping is stealing people. And that's the worst that one can do in terms of stealing. And finally, it has liars and perjurers. And what is that a violation of? The ninth command. You shall not bear false witness. So this is quite obvious sa second half ng kanyang mga sinabi, which brings us to the less obvious, but I want to show that Apostle Paul is actually following the order and content of commandments 1 to 4. He mentions here the first table of the law. The ungodly is really the violation of the first command. The word ungodly is used, or the word godly is used to describe those who accept Israel's God among the Gentiles. So if you are a Gentile, instead of accepting pagan gods, you come to accept the God of Israel. You are called a God-fearer or godly. And that shows that this is a part of the first commandment, which says, you shall have no other gods before me. And then, sinners. And I want to show that this is a violation of the second command concerning idolatry. And it is very interesting that in the Decalogue, the word sinner occurs only in the second command. So sinners are a reference not in the general category of sinners, but sinners as idolaters, which is a violation of the second command. And then unholy. And I want to show that this really is a violation of the third command, because holy often describes the name of God. And what is the third command? You shall not use the name of the Lord your God in vain, because his name is holy. And then finally, you have the word profane. And this is a violation of the fourth command, because profane or profaning is used very often both in the Old Testament and New Testament as describing Sabbath desecration. So I have shown that in 1 Timothy 1:8 to 11, Apostle Paul in fact was consciously following the order and content of the first 9 commands, and that of course implies already that Apostle Paul accept that there is a lawful use for the Decalogue. So the Sabbath is binding, but I want to show now that the Sabbath does not make it legalistic bondage. There is a joyful way of spending the Lord's Day, and believers must spend the Lord's Day with the grace of joy. And let us beware, because the Sabbath command may indeed become a legal bondage, nagiging legalismo sa iba. Paano ito nagiging pagkaalipin sa batas? When does it become legalistic bondage? Ay tatlong babala ang gusto kong ibigay. Una ay when it becomes merely prohibition of the external. Palaging iniisip mo, anong bawal? Bawal ito, bawal iyon. Ganyan mag-isip ang mga Fariseo, hindi ba? Yung ilang controversy ni Jesus with the Pharisees concern their do's and don'ts on the Sabbath, underscoring what is not to be done on the Sabbath. So in Mark 2:24, the Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" So you see, this is Pharisaic thinking. This is legalism. Kapag ang isip mo ay laging nandoon sa bawal, anong hindi pwede gawin, mawawalan ka ng kagalakan sa araw ng Panginoon. And then, when you are satisfied in ritual, dahil nagampanan mo ang ritual, ganyan din ang mga legalistic religious people in Jesus' time, because they have done what is expected of them to do. They are satisfied with it even though there is no real communion with the Lord. Ang maaring katapat niyan sa ating panahon, naka-attend ka ng church service, maaring natuwa ka na, akala mo na tupad mo na ang Sabbath, even if there is no real communion with the Lord. Beware of that. And the third is when there is a spirit of condemnation or fault finding of rivals. Alam nyo, ito ay ayaw ng Panginoon. May sinabi siya tungkol dito in Isaiah 65 verse 5, to those who say, "Keep to yourself, do not come near me, for I am holier than you. These are smoke in my nostrils, a fire that burns all the day." Kaya kapag ang isip mo, paningin mo ay nakatuon doon sa mga inaakala mong mas magaling ka at sila ay minamaliit mo at kinukondena mo, hindi ka magkakaroon ng kagalakan sa araw ng Sabbath, and that is not what the Sabbath is intended for us. The Sabbath is not bondage only when oriented to the grace of Christ, and therefore the Sabbath will then becomes a spiritual rest, which brings us back to God's rest. Hindi ito rest dahil sa pagod, kundi rest dahil gusto mong maggalak sa mga bagay na limitado ka sa 6 na araw, kinakailangan mong magtrabaho, pero ngayon binigyan ka ng araw na malulubos mo ang kagalakan sa Panginoong Heso Kristo. So the Sabbath should be the soul's delight in the Lord, regardless of the prohibition and the rituals and the others, rivals. Kinakailangan na ang iyong kaluluwa ay may kagalakan sa Panginoon. Ang sabi sa Isaiah 58:13 and 14, "If you turn away your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy day of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in the Lord. And I will cause you to ride on the high hills of the earth," etc. Makikita natin dito, ang hinihingi ng Panginoon ay ikaw ay magkaroon ng kagalakan sa Kanya. Kaya nga pinatitigil muna ang mga bagay na pang-6 na araw kung maaari, upang maituon mo ang kagalakan mo sa Panginoon. Then, consider also that the Sabbath liberates you from the limitations of 6-day work. Remember, the Sabbath day command in the fourth commandment has both an aspect about work. You should work 6 days. Pero because you are working 6 days, you will be imposed with limitations pagdating sa mga spiritual na bagay na iyong gagawin. But now you have a day that liberates you from the limitations of the 6-day work. That should gladden your soul. Consider also that having 1 day rest prepares better for the 6-day work. Ayan nga ang nakita natin sa kasaysayan, yung mga gustong baguhin. But with a 7-day cycle, as the wisdom of the Lord has dictated, you are given 1 day to rest. And when you use that, you are better as a worker in the 6 days that you are to work. So, a warning here against workaholism. This is something of a virtue considered heroic in our day. It is not. If you skip the Lord's day of rest just to work another day for you to earn, this is not holiness. So have a 1 day rest that prepares better for 6-day work. But warning, you should never use the Sabbath to even begin to think of merit earning from the Lord and to be condemning of others. There is no merit for Sabbath keeping, and there is grace to Sabbath breakers. So tanggalin natin ang ganyang pag-iisip sa atin para maging kagalakan sa atin ang araw ng Panginoon. So let us pursue joy on the day that the Lord has preserved for our rest from the 6 days of labor, the day for the New Testament that remembers Jesus rose from the dead. That should be joy. Now, there is a kind of spirit that will rob you of joy, and even in the Old Testament this was already noted by the Lord. And here you will see the connection of the joy of the Sabbath and your attitude to work. In the time of Amos, this was said of some people who were saying, "When will the new moon be over that we may sell grain, and the Sabbath be ended that we may market wheat?" Skimping the measure, boosting the price, and cheating with dishonest scales. So narito ang mga tao na bagamat sa kanilang panlabas ay kumikilala sa Sabbath, ngunit ang isip nila ay puno ng kanilang trabaho. Hindi lang basta trabaho, kundi ang nangyayari sa trabaho nila ay hindi matuwid ang kanilang pagtatrabaho. Makikita natin dito ang pagdurugtong sa Sabbath at sa ating gawain. There is a linkage in the way we observe the Sabbath and in the way we are mindful of work. Those who observe the holy rest of the Sabbath are also mindful of holiness at work. And you are not holy, and you are not living a holy life unless you are living a holy life at work as well as keeping holy the day of rest for the Lord. So my challenge is, enjoy the Lord's day as your holy rest in Christ. Binigyan sa iyo ng Panginoon bilang kanyang kaloob, at para magkaroon tayo ng lalong puwersa para sa ating kabanalan. At kahit sana tanggapin natin ang prinsipyo ng Sabbath, sapagkat sa pamamagitan nito ay nabibigyan tayo ng lalong lakas mula sa banal na Espiritu. At dahil sa pagkabuhay na muli ng ating Panginoong Hesukristo, mas lalo tayo magkakaroon ng motibo at ng lakas sa pamumuhay ng kabanalan. Maraming salamat sa inyong pakikinig. Sana kayo ay nakinabang at muli kayo ay pagpalain sa pag-ibig ng Diyos Ama at sa biyaya ng kanyang anak na si Jesucristo at sa pakikipisan ng banal na Espiritu.